always struggling with this. It seems to be logical, but not for me.
Sorry.
Het is een hondje. Weet je wat je moet doen? Eigenlijk moet je er tegenaan zitten. Zo net een beetje zo tegenaan hangen.
Oh ja, dat staat beter.
Ja, en dan kun je net zo'n beetje met je kontje, anders dan dit is charmanter.
Ja, dank je. Anders val ik ook zo af.
Ben jij als eerste of is Ieva?
Ieva is als eerste
Oké.
gelopen. Tenminste, dat zei je.
Oké. Even meteen. Wil je even een...
Improv is wel onze sterkste kant, hè? Double fisting it now.
I will.
Of wil je
Eva.
dat ik hier ga zitten?
Ga daar maar zitten. The best thing is if you just...
Mijn fotograaf wil me liefst hier hebben.
Oh, jouw fotograaf. If you sit on it, it's more charming if you just sit a little bit on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The posture is perfect like this. If you want, you can sit here. I will just... Yeah? Yeah?
Is everyone in? Welcome. Welcome to today's Innovation Café. Welcome after the summer break. Wow, what a crowd. I'm really happy. Will you do the questions for the crowd? Yeah. I'm so curious. But I'm a designer, so I'm curious. I always want to know why. I started Kazerne. I'm now responsible for Kazerne Design Lab. Not for the hospitality anymore, so I'm really happy about that. That's almost a year ago. And we're having this on and off innovation cafes because as a designer, I feel it's really important that we start co-creating. So where tech and design meet, that's where the magic happens. And all the big issues in society, we cannot do that alone. We need you. We are with so many great people here in Eindhoven. We are capable of prototyping the future. So let's start.
Annemone, I have a question for you already.
Oh yeah.
Yeah? Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you introduce those two guests? Why this team?
Why this team? Well, Ieva graduated from the Design Academy 1.5 years ago, I guess. And she was one of the nominees for the Kazerne Design Award. Yay! With her project, you all got ADHD? Yeah, okay, sorry. The project is actually in the room, in the other room. So please take a good look at it. It's very interesting. And then, we try to connect design and tech. So we are working as a community. So this time, Ernst came up with René. And then this was a match. And I think it's a great topic to discuss. And I think you do too, because you're all here.
Yeah, with so many.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm really curious what you're bringing up to the table tonight.
Well, let's start then.
Yes.
Thank
and of
you.
course, you're the moderator, Charlotte. Yeah. So welcome. Please meet Charlotte Grun.
Thank you.
Ieva Valule and Renée Malone.
Thank you, everybody. As Annemone mentioned, my name is Charlotte Grun. I'm a designer based in Eindhoven, actually a social designer. And this topic is quite interesting for me, also personally, because when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And since 2 years, my son, who is 13, is diagnosed with ADHD. And the last 2 years, I'm actually finding out, you already noticing it, that I maybe have more of ADHD than dyslexia. So it's quite interesting. And so this topic is going through my heart. But I'm also curious how this topic is for you guys. So I have a question. Normally we talk about who is designer, who is tech, but now we are talking about brains. So I'm curious. ADHD mainly is for you, it's a poll, diagnosis, label, superpower, or a trend. So who thinks ADHD is mainly a diagnosis? Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And who think ADHD is just a label? More on the left side, which is quite interesting. Okay. And who thinks ADHD mainly is a superpower? Okay, and who of you is diagnosed with ADHD? Okay, that's also quite interesting. And who thinks ADHD is a trend? Okay, we will find out more about that. And this is also already a small introduction to Ieva, because you did this very interesting research. Ieva is, because we wrote it down, digital
pathology
Yeah.
researcher.
Explain us, what is it? First, please give a big applause for Ieva.
Digital pathology. I like to think about it, it's pathology that we already know, but it's digital pathology. It's something that you contract on internet. Basically, you read about it, algorithm is giving you clues about it. Maybe someday it almost feels like a divine message coming to you from your feed. Also, these messages sometimes are not so divine. I think like other digital pathologies are, for example, eating disorders, or even PCOS as well, which is now, if you are a female and you are hanging a lot on a feed, maybe, I don't know, some of you have also been diagnosed with that, without any kind of gynecological inspection. So yeah, I hope that satisfies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We will learn about that more during your presentation, right?
Yes.
Well, let's start. Take the stage. You can also stand or sit. What do you feel like? Sorry?
Clicker.
Oh, I forgot the clicker. Joey, do you have the clicker for me? Or Robin? Sorry? Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think this is also, I also forget my keys lots of the time. So here, please.
So, yeah. My name is Ieva. I'm born in Latvia. I live here in Netherlands, and also a big part of my life was Berlin. Work that I create normally is half time I'm doing corporate work, half time I'm doing more kind of research-based work. Does it work?
Yeah, it's working.
So weird. Okay. Now you can see my film, Y'all Got ADHD. And in this film, I'm talking about the main character, who is me, who is suffering from information overload and the crushing demands of life. And one day she finds out a very divine message from her feed that she might have ADHD, and she gets it from this TikTok video. And from there starts snowball effect, and more of these videos she sees. One could say like why a lot of people feel so ADHD would be because I'm sitting all the time on TikTok, I'm bedrotting a lot, like no wonder my attention is spreading really thin. But if you look at more kind of historical like perspective, already 100 years ago in Viennese cafes, there's a lot of charming articles about people freaking out that there's too much print, there's too much text, there's newspapers that has these teeny tiny columns that are really hard to read. And one of these anecdotes also comes that there's men flicking through the newspapers all the time and not even absorbing them. So I think like saying why everybody has ADHD and just blaming technology on it, I think it's just a bit too simple. What I am proposing is looking back in history at other very iconic pathologies. And three of them that struck my attention the most was melancholy. That's how, before we had a concept of mental health, we understood depression as this divine gift for the creative. Or tuberculosis, which was 100 years ago, especially between First and Second World War, one of the pathologies that the most shaped the fashion and culture. There even derived some sort of like a fashion style, which was called tuberculosis chic, which was white glimmering skin, rosy cheeks, slender body, and this kind of like young youth that is wasting away, and this unrequired love, and so on. It was very romanticized in order to deal with the passing of very many young people. And I think what mainly a lot of Gen Xers would connect is also bipolar disorder. And I think saying, I hate being bipolar, it's awesome, is kind of was really like this 90s way of thinking of like, of the capitalist like highs and lows. So these are the three iconic diseases, and what I'm saying, that perhaps also the fascination that we have now with ADHD is sort of like a protest to say that, hey, listen, it's like literally too much for me, and I'm really relating with having ADHD is kind of like protesting that you don't want to be part of what is happening. And in my work, since we are here, also a lot of people from like the corporate work environment, I also started questioning myself a lot in like a corporate environment. Being an ADHD queen of the office, it actually is a superpower, because if you look at job ads from LinkedIn's, you're gonna find a lot of things that actually very much resonate with like corporate culture, which is like looking for that multi-hyphenate graphic designer who can do everything and even write a copy. Somebody who's quick decision maker, result driven. They don't care how they're gonna get there, but they're gonna get there. It's the open plan office where somebody can thrive or not. Or my favorite one is the flat hierarchy one. Which is very something what ADHD people absolutely like strive. And basically this kind of like sums it up, like a little intro of me.
Well, it's more than an intro.
Yeah.
But thank you, thank you. I have a question, because of course I have many questions, as you all have probably. Sorry? Oh, sorry, my mic. Yeah, I have many questions. Like, why did you start it with this topic? Why ADHD?
Why ADHD? So I've been always somebody who was very interested in pathologies. Like as a kid, I was reading a lot about plague and things like this, and how these big disease, like recently how COVID as well, completely reorganized our lives. And I feel like one of these now most iconic pathologies, I really see ADHD. And also in my work, I'm not really like touching that much on people who live in like very chronic pain and like with disabilities. I'm really like talking about people who just relate to that message a lot, who going on the feeds and like feeling some kind of resonance with this message. And I think perhaps people in the future are going to look back at this time and will remember it as ADHD time.
You also told me that you wake up one morning.
Yes, basically, as my film also begins, the main character just wakes up with this divine message from the feed that she might have ADHD. And then all of a sudden, I was just hearing more and more people around me were like, I maybe have ADHD, I'm so ADHD, this is so ADHD. And one of my most neurotypical roommates came up to me and he was like, I need to do an ADHD test. And I was like, okay, well, no, there's something like really happening, you know?
Here is something interesting going on.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Thank you. Give a big applause for Ieva, of course, for your inspirational, energizing presentation. But we also have Renée. Renée is a neuropsychologist and inclusion advocate. And I'm curious. Well, because you also work for ASML, but you were also an entrepreneur.
I do, yeah. I
And
work for
also-
ASML and for myself, yeah.
And also diagnose ADHD.
Yes, absolutely.
Take the stage.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I have a little bit more classical slide, a lot less interesting, so I don't need the clicker. So just introducing myself, so who am I? So I studied neuropsychology. I was always fascinated by people and by the brain, and also I wanted a little bit more of a scientific approach to psychology, so not too woo-woo. And I landed on neuropsychology, which was, interestingly enough, I didn't learn anything about neurodevelopmental disorders. That was solidly the area of developmental psychology, child psychology, and yeah, so I didn't know anything about autism and ADHD, OCD, etc. A little bit about depression, of course, but just in general, we were mostly focusing on traumatic brain injury, dementia, that kind of, you know, degenerative diseases of the mind. But it did give me a very good foundation to better understand how behavior and the brain are linked, because in the end, our brain dictates our behavior. And then I graduated, and there was no work. So I walked into an agency and I said, hey there, I speak 4 different languages, because I speak Spanish, French, English, and Dutch. You must have a job for me, because your agency is called Unique Multilingual. You look for multilingual office jobs. Find me something. And they said, well, we have someone who's going on maternity leave. You can stay here. And that's how I ended up in the world of recruitment. And that is still what I do for ASML, but now I'm not just a headhunter for ASML, but I also lead a project that's called Atypical Interns. So I'm responsible for the internship opportunities for students who have indicated that they need reasonable accommodations due to neurodivergence. And through this project and through this work, but mainly through my child, I realized that not everybody, actually the majority of people, do not live, function, and think like me. And this has led me to seek a diagnosis. And the wonderful part of it was that once I got my diagnosis of ADHD, everything made sense. And the things that as a psychologist I knew I needed to do, self-compassion and, you know, really trying to follow my own path and stay, you know, true to myself, authenticity, suddenly did become possible. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the work of Kristen Neff. Yes? Yeah. She's amazing. She works on mindful self-compassion. It looked very difficult before my diagnosis, and it's very natural after my diagnosis. And no, it's not because of the pills. It's because I know where my behavior comes from. So as much as I notice, too, that ADHD content is out there, all over the place, everywhere, easy to consume, very relatable for very many people. No, we do not all have ADHD. But when we do, we can make it a superpower in the right conditions. And as an entrepreneur, as an independent consultant and speaker, this is what I help companies with, to turn that friction that they can experience with their employees, that employee that doesn't seem to fit in, even though they're very good at what they do, to turn that friction into shine by adapting the environment so that it becomes more suitable for how their brain operates.
Can you give an example for that? You work for ASML.
Yeah.
What do you do for people with ADHD?
So I think I make it very
Because
clear.
you already lost me a little bit. Sorry.
Okay, so I think the open plan office is actually quite the enemy of the ADHDer, because we have a tendency to then get very distracted. So I help them understand and make, we call them operational protocols, basically set rules for what is acceptable behavior. So if you work in an open plan office and you step by someone's desk, if that talk is going to last more than 5 minutes, take it into an office. And these are not difficult things, right? This is not rocket science. Like, I work with rocket scientists. This is not rocket science. but it just needs to be made explicit. And that's what I help companies with, like realize what are those rules, what are the implicit rules, are the implicit rules the right rules, or should we change them and make explicit what is implicit.
Wow, interesting. But I also have a question to you related to Ieva, because she said from design research perspective that this is a time where many people are like self-diagnosing or diagnosing with ADHD. Do you have like an idea why?
So
it's an assumption. It's
it
fine.
is.
It
No,
doesn't have to be,
I do. ADHD is part of ADHD is the fact that we do not have enough dopamine, so we engage in dopamine-seeking behavior. And dopamine-seeking behavior is not reward, right? So reward, the hormones and the neurotransmitters that flood us with reward, it's not that's not dopamine. Dopamine is actually the anticipation of the reward. And it's and our phones and our lives have been created to create these dopamine spikes where we are actually falling out of homeostasis, and we need to seek more and more extreme behaviors to fulfill that dopamine need. So it's by design. It's by capitalist design.
Interesting, yeah. For me, deadlines are like amazing. Deadlines got me through work. It's like I get everything done for a deadline. But if you ask me to clean my house, that's going to take weeks before I start for it.
I do have to say there, this is something that when I started with the work that I do, it's one of the things that I told the companies, like if you have an ADHDer, deadlines, very clear deadlines, remind them of the deadline, and you can even hack it yourself. Like I sometimes stopped putting my laptop on the charger, and then I saw the charge drain, and I was like, rage against time. And then I discovered the work by Jenna Free. She is a psychotherapist, and she works on nervous system regulation. And she was like, this is so bad for you because you're artificially creating a state of fight or flight. And that means that you do it, and you do all the work, and then you crash hard, which is why you get to deliver what you do at work, but most likely you're struggling with what you're doing at home. So the question is it sustainable for you and for your environment for the long time, and is this how you want to live? Yeah. And for me, that answer was no.
Wow, that's honest. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Deniz. I'm an architect. Hi. So I didn't understand. You said you are special in that case, that you are functional and what?
Sorry, I don't.
Do you remember you said you are special than the others because you have function and what? You said something like you have function and something else too. I missed that. Yeah.
And in what context did you say?
Yeah, why she has ADHD?
And I have ADHD. I was helping students who are neurodivergent get the accommodations that they need. So my job as a project lead is to make sure that the departments are open to hiring a student who is neurodivergent and are well aware that that means that the way they guide them during the internship is different. So I don't want to say it's more time consuming, but it is a different approach. And so I teach them that different approach. But then I realized that that different approach in a lot of the times was things that I was doing.
But you talk about your kids and you said something like...
I also really recognized it in my kids. I have 2 children. You can see my youngest is now almost 7, and my youngest is almost 4, and my oldest is 7.5. And my oldest, honestly, I will eat my shoe if my oldest does not have either ADHD or giftedness, but most likely ADHD. And she was just different from the day she was born. So it was not my feed, but it was my kid.
Yeah, I didn't understand to be able not to be able to be ADHD, but like to be an ADHD, what do you need to have? I was trying to understand that, but my question is that one. Today I listened some neurologist, then he said that all the people, when they came to the world, they have all ADHD. Then by time, everyone has their own path. Then some of them able to calibrate, to normalize it. And all babies have ADHD. What do you think about this one? And second question is, what is the difference between to have anxiety and ADHD?
Okay, maybe it's a question for the both of them. I think it's quite interesting for Ieva also to
let's
answer
start
that
with you.
question. Is it on? If it's green? Yeah.
I think it's kind of like that.
Okay.
Hey, super interesting question. When I was doing my research, what you're saying that babies come in the world and they maybe have ADHD, or you also mentioned the word normal, which is also like a very interesting word that you could deal with when you start looking at diagnosis and stuff. And I was very kind of like disappointed at like the official route how we go about diagnosis. I don't know how you feel about it, but it was very like aggravating because like we decided what is normal to 17th to 18th century, and it was decided not in a very diverse crowd as well. It was only men. And so basically, this is where we got this idea of what is normal. Then there was a long way of documenting it in DSM-5, which is now like this official like textbooks that says like, okay, everything that's in here, it's not normal. For me, it was like, quite of a problem to understand this concept, because really like more and more I did like research on ADHD, and more I also reflect on my behaviors, and we even talked about it before. I was always extremely rewarded of being outgoing, of being able to do 10 things at the same time, being creative. So for me, it's like, how come this is not normal? You know, I've been like only rewarded by it. It's not like a very clear answer, because there's no clear answers literally what I can give you about like, what is normal or not, or who has ADHD or not, because there's no, also if somebody does a test, you're not being put in an MRI scanner where they can say there's something, wrong with you. That would be my reflection on this.
Yeah, so for me, we do know that there are differences in the brain architecture between people who have diagnosed ADHD and people who are not diagnosed ADHD. So first of all, there are measurable differences, but it's a little bit too expensive to just chuck anybody who's suspected have ADHD in an MRI scanner. What is indeed problematic, but I'm coming at it from a slightly different angle, is that you do need proof from youth to be considered ADHD. And why is that problematic? Because I think it means that people who no longer have ties with their parents, people who don't have report cards from school or lifelong friends will not get the diagnosis, even if they would deserve it. And with a diagnosis, doesn't come just the label, comes the support that you can get. So there I see potential for change and for improvements. But I have to say I felt very much supported, and I had a really great psychotherapist that really helped me, and also my partner, because he's affected by my ADHD as well, especially since we now have children.
But he also likes you for it.
Yes, but I think what we focus on a little bit is the superpower side of ADHD. What we miss out is that there's a crippling side of ADHD as well. The fact that I really struggle to get out of bed in the morning, and that I am constantly putting myself, because it's a self-inflicted part partially, in this state of fight or flight, where I am like nervous. I have this nervous energy. That's not a pleasant way to live. I'd much rather live in a kind of like slow it down pace where I feel more in control. So whenever people talk about having ADHD and medication being an issue, I actually feel my medication makes me more me because I'm able to consciously choose whether or not to lose myself. And so when it comes also to anxiety, I think that's it. The anxiety comes from the fact that we fail so much.
Yeah.
And then you get anxious because then you're afraid to fail again because you anticipate failure.
Yeah. We have another question here.
Yeah, so my question is related to what you just said about the label and the accommodations, because I had a few discussions on the topic, and my question is more like, okay, so to be diagnosed with ADHD, we're looking for the difference in the brain on that specific set, but in general, like in real life, we don't care really about the brain, we care about the traits, how that impacts on your life. So how do you see the accommodations for people that have traits, even if they don't have the full set of traits or they don't have a diagnosis, and how this variation deals with the accommodation in life or in work?
It's a very wonderful question.
For who is the question? For René or for Ieva? Oh, both of them. Now, I'll go for it.
For me, I have a very clear answer to that. Accommodations generally benefit everybody. Do you know what my number one recommended accommodation is? In a corporate environment, in a work environment, for ADHD and autism in particular. Take a wild guess. Anybody? Come on, don't be shy. Promote sports. Structure. Do you know what I say? Office is one of two people. No, none of it. It's structure, but it's a very specific kind of structure. Never, ever send out a meeting invite without a clear agenda.
So, sorry, what you said, never send out a...
Meeting invite without a clear agenda. Do you know who that benefits? It benefits me. It benefits the autistic colleague. It benefits everybody, because my husband was once in a meeting where after 20 minutes he asked, "I'm sorry, I think you need the other Stephen Malone, the one who's working in Wilton in software?" Yeah, we laugh, but it's ridiculous, right? What a waste of time. What an utter waste of time. So I believe the majority of accommodations actually benefit everybody, not just neurodivergent people.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can really I think this was one of the reasons why also ADHD popped up. It's so much. And actually, if you tracing back when exactly the hashtag ADHD got the most prominent in TikTok, it was actually the time during the COVID when our screen time was racking up, but people wanted to, also there was a lot of people who were sharing very intimate thoughts of themselves, and that combination together created this really effect. And also so many people who are dealing with ADHD started to sharing their tips on how to organize time, because once you live with it and once you treat yourself, then of course you have the most amazing productivity tips, because you're living life on the hardest level. And I think that's why also so many people resonate with it, because of course who doesn't resonate with good advice? But of course not everything is so black and white, you know.
Thank you. We have another question.
I'm Yama Saraj. Thank you so much, first of all, for being vulnerable and sharing your story and inspiring us. My question is related to prevention and early detection. 1 in 7 youth around the world, especially in big urban areas, have been diagnosed with some kind of disorder, and it seems everything is growing more. So what can we do to destigmatize? And also there's 1 year waiting list for youth in Eindhoven to get access to mental health care. So I would like to hear your thoughts on these topics. Thank you so much.
More sports, I would say.
Sports.
In your case.
Well, more sports, more time in nature. It's a really good question to which I don't necessarily have a great answer. I think the rise that we see is partially the same rise that we saw with left-handedness. Once left-handedness was no longer being punished, we saw an increasing amount of people being left-handed. That doesn't mean left-handed people didn't exist before. So I do expect there to be kind of like a stabilization of the number of diagnoses. And when it comes to destigmatizing, it's exactly what Ieva said. You are living life on hard mode, and you don't necessarily have to. And by valuing the good traits, and this is a little bit the superpower part that we're in right now, that will help break away a little bit of the stigma. And I think then after we have broken down that barrier a little bit, we will be more able to address the shortcomings, because they still exist, right? Like, yes, I'm insanely able to see, connect dots and approach problems in a creative or unexpected way. But the fact that I have lost my driver's license 3 times, like lost, like not taken away from me, but lost, it becomes a little bit of an expensive hobby. And I would love to be able to deal with that better, right? So I think if we start and, first destigmatizing, appreciating what is there, and then following up with, okay, how can we make sure that you don't pay the price for your brain? Okay. And then hopefully treat it earlier, because we know from a fact that the earlier we treat it, the less disruptive it becomes later in life.
All right. Thank you, Renee. We have more questions. Oh, many questions. Ooh. We have to give shorter answers because we have many questions. Yeah.
Hi, I have a question for Renee, because you are part of the recruitment, meaning the corporate, but also...
Sorry, I'd like to see you. Yeah.
Yeah, but also part of the people who have... stand up. Yeah, okay. So my question is, are companies hesitant to actually hire people who are neurodiverse? And are companies actually, do they have the suitable facilities for such type of people? Because what I know from my corporate experience is that sometimes those type of people can be seen as being all over the place, and some employees can, are not willing to take them. So what is your take on this claim?
Okay, so the answer is no and no. They're not hesitant to hire them, and they don't have the facilities to accommodate them. So the tension starts when they want to use the superpowers, but they don't want to change their own behavior to accommodate for the failings. And that's the bind we're in right now. So we say we want one thing, and then we hire that one thing, and then initially they do okay, but then they want to move through the organization and even sometimes get promoted based on the behavior they're showing to then get punished. Because the corporates and hiring parties do not realize that the behavior is not situational, it's who they are. So then the tension becomes, am I starting to mask a lot more? Or am I just going to accept that I'm stuck at this level? So growth is pain. So we have to go through this, acknowledging that we're not doing great. Because so far people hid it. People stayed silent or people left.
Okay. Thanks. We have another question here. What's your name?
Sophie.
Sophie.
Thanks.
Sophie.
Yeah, maybe aimed at both or aimed at Ieva, and kind of relating to what was said before, and I'm not an expert in this, but I understand that there's kind of like a social model of disability and how disabilities are only disabling because of like the society that we live in. And from what it sounds like ADHD is definitely one of those things where like the systems are not in place. But as you mentioned with like, it's like a pathology, the pathologies that you studied, like kind of stayed pathologies, I guess, like still no one wants to get tuberculosis. But like, say you do kind of change this social model, like with the left-handedness, do you think ADHD will always stay as this idea of like, obviously it could be a superpower, there's positives, but will it always stay as this thing that's like a pathology or a disability, or do you think like the social model could change enough to kind of switch the society? Yeah, thanks.
I mean, it already changed. If you, I think it's especially interesting what Michel Foucault, who's a philosopher who a lot dealt with the question of like, what is the rationality and what is madness? And back in the Middle Ages, for example, madness, they didn't have word for mental health. So I'm saying you that was just madness. And madness was not perceived to be anything bad. It could be seen as maybe you are so devoted to the God, or maybe you have some kind of divine knowledge. You see a lot of, for example, Shakespeare as well has a writing about King Lear, who is talking, who is obviously in very troubled state, but people were looking up to him as somebody who's talking divine message. I understand that this is like a super big stretch, but I'm telling you, it's already has happened in history, that we all the time have a shifting perspective on mental health. And I think the same way is about being a lefty as well. When, for example, I was at school and in Soviet Union there was no dyslexia. I was just dumb, you know. And
That was the same here. Don't worry.
Yeah, that was everywhere.
And yeah, look at me now. I don't think I'm so dumb anymore, you know. So I think these changes happens, but probably, yeah, the question is if our lifetime or not.
Just a small comment. What I always find interesting about change is that first that you have to kind of overdo it before it comes a bit of normal. And I feel like we're in this time that we're a little bit overdoing it, and it's a bit too much, and then we have to go back to normal is a bit weird word in this context, but to kind
average
of
out.
Average. Thanks you, Renee. Yeah, you had a question as well, huh?
Yeah, I wanted Bernardine.
Bernardine, yeah.
At Renee, you were just saying when you treat it in an earlier stage, the better it is. So, what do you mean by treating? It sounds a bit like, oh, you're bad and you should be treated to get right.
No, so by treating, I mean you get the tools to be able to not get dysregulated. So let's put it like this. My problem with my ADHD never was, by the way, my lack of timekeeping, because I have a French mom and a Dutch dad, and my mom's from the south of the Netherlands, from Maastricht. Not being on time was never a problem. So I never felt that as a pain point, right? My problem with ADHD was more the impulsivity of speaking, so cutting through people and therefore appearing rude. So yes, some people interpret it as enthusiasm. Most people, after a little while, you become rude, right? You can never just shut up. So if I had gotten better support to make sure that I was able to express myself in other ways than just cutting across people, I wouldn't have suffered from the minder mondje open, meer je oren open, minder mondje open comment that I received, well, a lot. So research is hinting at, because it's not very solid yet, that neurodivergent children, and especially ADHD children, get 20,000 more negative comments before the age of 12. Yeah. So if you can get tools to not get those negative comments, imagine what it does to your self-esteem. And having that kind of self-esteem and that good baseline provides you with central nervous system regulation, because you're not constantly in fight, flight, or fawn, or freeze.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah?
I think it's also a lot with like, I'm working in education, and when I'm looking at curriculum of like the little ones, they, for example, do social emotional learning at school, which again, when we were growing up was not a thing.
I know.
And this can weed out a lot of these things, because when I see like little kids, when they are like spazzing out and they're like, oh, wait a sec, I need to like take a break. I'm like, wow, that is something unbelievable to see, and that's all education.
Yeah. My proudest moments as a parent are the moments where my kid goes, stomps out of the room and says, I am so angry, I need a bit of time. Oh. And she is 3.5, and I'm like, I am nailing this. But it's not just me, it is the school, it's the daycare. Yeah. So you're right, yeah, we are getting better. We're giving people the tools to regulate their emotions.
We have another question.
Yes, my name is Katerina, and I want to bring my personal story, but I am as an observer, and my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, after she was referred to Gizia with self-harming and depression. And yeah, she is daily struggling with anxiety. I still cannot believe that she has this diagnosis or special, let's say, condition. And my question is to Renée, is it always go side by side, anxiety, depression, melancholy, and ADHD, or there is an escape to that? Because all other traits that you mentioned, they're good to me and they're perfectly fine to live, but if if it's always accompanied with those side effects?
The answer is not always. There are many, many comorbidities, and especially women and girls go first to an anxiety and or depression diagnosis before being diagnosed with ADHD. So we know that this is the case as well because historically, exactly what Ieva said, girls were not included in the research. So, you know, the little boys bouncing off the wall, that was what you needed to display as behavior to be able to be eligible for ADHD. So fortunately, we're just becoming a little bit wiser about what other ways it can express itself. But it doesn't always have to. And then I think of a leader I've had. So her name is Laureen. Laureen was our learning and knowledge management officer, and she was diagnosed later in life. But she always had a very strong foundation. And one of the things she said, and it's one of the anecdotes she tells, but that were very building for her character and her resilience, so how she dealt with how she looks at the world and processes information, is she was at there was a parent-teacher meeting, and the teacher brought up something that was clearly the ADHD part of her, and her mother stopped her, the teacher, and said, "I'm sorry, this is just how our Laureen is, and she has all these wonderful qualities. This is indeed something she needs to work on, but I would like you not to stay and focus only on that, because she also does this, 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 and this." And so she moved through life very confident, and there's a reason I think that she became, you know, a C-level executive. So it doesn't always have to, but we do know that people with ADHD are more prone to depression and anxiety. But again, I do think a lot of it can be attributed to that state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, where that leads to ultimately anxiety and perhaps depression. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your personal story. And we have another question.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Sebastian.
Sebastian.
Hi, Eva. I have this first question. So it's about how ADHD become a bit confining as a label, especially what you mentioned about social media. Like I have ADHD myself, and I live in most continents, and I've been an actor, a teacher, a real estate agent, and a lawyer. I know it's funny, but I also refuse myself to believe that I'm all of these things just because of that. And I find really hard to deal with where the label ends, and I start as a human being with a very unique experience. And then just quickly for you, the other question is, with the all or nothing mindset, in my case, I really have a really difficult relationship with digital entertainment in all shapes and forms. And because it's so hard for me I get hooked with just 2 minutes of exposure to any video. So I go months without not even seeing an advertisements on the streets because I get distracted. Well, that's an exaggeration, but yeah, but I feel when I do this, when I don't watch anything at all for months, I feel the happiest, healthiest, go to the gym, meditate, all these things. So just relationship with this all or nothing mindset and digital entertainment. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Do you want to reflect on it? Ieva?
Yeah, it was very beautiful reflections there from you. And yeah, but like big part of my research is looking at the labels and trying to make sense why so many people want to label as ADHD. And I think there's two major factors that comes into play. As humans, we like to categorize things, and even algorithm itself is also, it's needing categories. You need to be part of category to get like more content that's gonna resonate with you. That's just how internet is built. So that is like one, like very technical maybe reason why the label is kind of like needed in order to find the resources or information. But also as humans, we are like we live in a world where we're trying to put words on the things. So that's why we are looking for finding some label like this. But yeah, of course, more and more you're gonna research and see, and more you're gonna see like, hey, actually a lot of these disorders have major overlaps. And yeah, the more and more you start seeking answers, the less and less actually the label gonna have weight on you. And yeah, about like entertainment, God no, it's like all my work is based on that I like, my screen time is like unbelievable. Like you don't even want to know. So yeah, tips.
So I am, yeah.
We also have like many questions going on.
Yeah, so I'd say if it works for you, keep doing it. Why not install a landline so you don't need your mobile phone as much anymore? We have a landline. I just bought an analog watch so that I don't need to take, and I bought an analog camera so I don't need to bring my phone to make photos. So I'm actually, you know, going back in time and going back to my roots, which is the 90s. But if it works for you, keep doing it. We don't need to pathologize your behavior.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Peter. You touched upon this a little bit in passing. I heard at some point you mentioned autism and ADHD in the same line. I know in the Venn diagram they overlap quite a bit. With autism, like let's say 15, 20 years ago, you were either a clear defined category like as Asperger's, or you were a personal development disorder not otherwise specified, like have a label, good luck. To an extent, are we seeing a similar progression in that we've seen with autism in the last years with ADHD? So with autism these days we talk about a spectrum because you can clearly see there's a wide range of neurotypical architectures for autists that hit different marks. You mentioned a similar thing for ADHD. Let's say 100 years from now, are we still going to define the world in neurotypical and neurodivergent brains, or are we just a very divergent bunch?
We're actually already starting not to do that anymore. We are already starting to refer to neuro minorities and neurodiverse, because every brain is different. So in one of the exercises I do with the groups that I work with is my brain is A, and they have to think about how they would, what analogies, what things they would say about their brain. And then I try to prove, okay, everybody's brain in this room is already different with or without a diagnosis. So we are going there. Furthermore, we are also seeing that the same way with autism, PDD, NOS, Asperger, those labels have been dropped. And the same is happening for ADHD. Some people still refer to ADHD and ADD, but all of that is now under one. And I wanted to say something else. Oh, I wanted to say something very important on the spectrum. Because the spectrum is not a spectrum like you don't have autism, you have autism. The spectrum is a wheel, and in that wheel there are different types of, let's say, areas where you're an outlier. And those areas, either you have them all filled to the max, or you have some of them, so it's not balanced, and that's how everything is a spectrum. So please, as an ADHD person, but as a neurodiversity advocate, do not say everybody's a little bit autistic or everybody's a little bit ADHD, because that is diminishing our lived experience.
Okay, we do a small change with the mics because we have so many people. And can I change it?
Of course.
Yeah. We have a question in the back.
Okay. Hi, thank you ladies for sharing your expertise. I have 2 questions, if that's okay. Sorry. I'll be very quick. So specifically for Renee, it's known that people with ADHD have a higher chance of burning out. In a corporate setting, what are the 3 top positive or negative qualities that lead to that, and what can be done strategically for these people to not burn out? And the second question is, if capitalism is promoting the development or more people feeling like they have ADHD, then what kind of world system should we, like what should the world system look like that doesn't promote it?
Well, I'll leave the world system building to other people, but I do believe connection to nature and connection to community. So capitalism mainly benefits from eroding community, because then you need to buy everything, and you need time. We were talking about third spaces. The lack of third spaces means you spend money, basically. But in a corporate way, top 3 tips. Don't plan too much consecutively. I don't know if that makes sense. So you have the tendency to cram all your meetings in the morning, thinking then in the afternoon you're free for brain work or something like that. Don't do that. Spread it out over the day and build in breaks and stick to those breaks. Give your brain time to breathe. Another one is don't be afraid to ask for clarity, like the agenda, like notes, meeting notes. That should be the standard. I don't know why it isn't. And feel free to hand in work when it's 80% done, because your 80% is most likely the other person's 100%.
Thank you. I also miss a little bit the traveling time in between meetings. Now we have like back-to-back meetings normally.
Oh yeah, the 20-50 rule. 20-minute meetings or 50-minute meetings. Yeah. That's the way to go.
We have another question here.
Hello. I want to ask that we are being targeted so much on social media about everything that is ADHD, and we all have it and that point of view. But getting the diagnostic as an adult is hard. I have friends who have been trying for years, and they have been getting no's and no's and no's. So how can we take both parts together? Like, how can we take advantage of all the social media that is being targeted to us to help us to get the diagnostic we need?
This is a really good one, because I don't want that you get idea that I have a certain opinion you should self-diagnose or not, because I have opinions of both. And bit of problem with the formal institution of who gets to decide who has ADHD or who doesn't. Yeah, first of all, it is the waiting time. And second of all, they look at the patient as a subject, and subject doesn't possess knowledge. And the cool thing about discovering neurodiversity in your own backyard is that all of a sudden you are actually possessing the knowledge. You are a valid source of knowledge. And especially if you come together in communities, which is something that doesn't happen often with work with psychologists, if you're not specifically doing group work, it can be very liberating to come together with a common sense of that you feel different together. And I think in this way, online communities can really strive. But yeah, as you know, there is the really ugly thing, also in my movie. I have this really yassified shrink that you can see for yourself, because that's also a problem with the mental health advice. It has to compete very much with all other content. So as I already was saying, why it was so popping off during the COVID, because the highest engagement you get with the most raw stuff. And this is where people started really sharing very vulnerable, very kind of private information. I still believe that there can be groups where these communities can be built and people can share their difference. And I'm very pro about it. And I think that is something more likely to create a movement that actually can change something. And then I think there should be both. There should be the professional support, but also support where people can come together and share the feeling of difference.
Thank you.
I'll make it very, very quick. You mentioned. No. I'll make it very quick. You mentioned that you have a group of interns that are
neurodivergent.
Neurodivergent, and let's say you want to hire a couple of them. Do you have to inform the candidate's manager or the team or both? Is there a regulation here?
Well, they know, obviously. So what I do is I go to the teams, the managers, and I say, hey, I'm running the Atypical Interns program. Do you want to hire an intern that is neurodivergent? And then I always get stories that are very personal. I wish this existed before, my partner, myself, my son. There's always a story coming out, and the answer is yes, I want to, with a very few exceptions. And I accept that completely, right? My team is already overworked. I cannot guarantee to give the attention. I'm always thinking then you shouldn't have an intern in the first place because they all deserve attention, but okay. And then if the intern performs well and they want to convert the intern to a permanent member of staff, and especially in the same team, then the team already knows. If it's going to be in another team, the intern has built confidence. So the reason this program exists is, God, I have to give a little bit backstory. Sorry, I wish I could make it shorter. Is that we gave money to Fontys University and to work on an initiative that they called Career Jumpstart, which is helping their students, and primarily came from ICT at the time, to transition into sustainable work. They said, well, great ASML, but why don't you hire our graduates, right? And so I was tasked to investigate if we could hire the graduates. It flopped. It bombed so bad. And there are many different reasons, but the primary reason is that a lot of the young people I spoke to indicated they weren't available for 40 hours in the week. Yeah, they did not have the work capacity to not burn out if they worked 40 hours a week. And then I thought, okay, so what can we do that is easy and you don't have to work 40 hours a week? And that's internships, because that can start at 28 hours. And then I found out through my contact with the hired interns that one of the reasons they were so scared of working 40 hours a week is that they had failed previous internships. So they didn't get the support they needed, and they burnt out, and they failed. And so my belief was, our managers will be better equipped, because a lot of mentors are also future people leaders, because, showing that you want to become a manager by mentoring an intern. Have the tools to better help their employees, but also these young people graduate, and they graduate feeling confident that they're able to function in a complex organization. And of course, having ASML on their resume helps as well.
Thank you. Well, Ronald, you were quite silent. Do you have a question? Normally you have like many questions.
I have a question and a statement. Yeah, I'm a sort of a regular. I'm a fixture to the Kazerne. When my daughter was small, at a certain point she started crying and she asked me, please explain how my brain works. Because she was at school and then the teacher said, you're above the curve, so you're doing well. And then we said, well, hold on, she's going down in her curve. Yeah, but she's still above the curve, so that's okay. Which turned out she was diagnosed with ADHD. By that, I had a similar experience that people said, oh my God, you're so alike, so you must have ADHD. And then I said, do I need a label? I don't need a label. I'm not interested in the label, I'm not interested in diagnosis. But I am interested in learning whether or not there's any programs outside of ASML or SAP or Microsoft, all the big names, that would help children like my daughter, but also myself as an adult, to enter into a program or have a better solution where they not only fight burnout, but bore out, which is, to me, a bigger issue.
Agreed.
And I want to know if you know of any programs that would help the normal ADHDer that hasn't had the diagnosis to get help in that.
So in that sense, Career Jumpstart does not require diagnosis, right? So that's first of all. So if you're at Fontys University or at Technical University Eindhoven and you think you need this type of support, you do not need a formal diagnosis. In my program, I never ask for a formal diagnosis, right? I'm going to expect people don't want to be the weirdo. So the people who need it are going to be truthful about it. WAVE is also something started again by Marlou Heskes and Manon Krabbenborg, who also started Career Jumpstart, and it stands for We Appreciate and Value Everything. Is that it? WAVE? Yeah, something like that anyway. And they indeed focus on co-creation, stimulating companies to think differently. So I would definitely look into WAVE. And other than that, I don't know yet of initiatives specifically targeting children, but that won't be long because Saskia Schepers this year published her latest book that is called Als alle breinen leren. And I expect a similar knock-on effect as it had with companies after Als alle breinen werken, when all minds thrive. So, yeah, just a little bit more patience.
Places where you can go. I was now on a waiting list for 45 weeks.
Oh yeah, same.
So that doesn't make any sense. And I don't really need to be on 45.
But exactly, if you don't need a label, don't take the label, but take the learnings, right? And
yeah, but where do you get the learning? Where is the program, or where are programs where, as an adult, where you think you have ADHD, or if everybody tells you you've got ADHD except for yourself?
Internet.
I was going to say, let me say, yeah, I know.
I feel a company coming.
I was going to say, let's connect, let's start building stuff. Yeah, why not?
I think you really have to be resourceful, and you really have to find the great thinkers, the great artists, the great people who already, you know, have lived through hard times and learn lessons for that. And there you can look into religion, you can look in philosophers. I think this is our duty as like becoming adults, keep on learning and educating ourselves there, because there can be a problem actually with labels. Sometimes you really have to seriously question yourself, okay, I want to get official diagnosis, what I'm benefiting from that.
Yes.
Because there are some cases, for example, you cannot ever become New Zealand citizen if you have official autism diagnosis. If you are autistic, kid with autistic diagnosis,
it's the same
you
thing
can.
With driving license.
They changed
Exactly.
that. They changed
Oh,
that. They passed a new, yeah.
That's
yeah.
amazing. Like, but you know, more and more this kind of
Advocacy
examples
works.
you're gonna look for. That not always official diagnosis is exactly a solution to your problems as well.
I couldn't agree more. Check out Jenna Free again. She does these group circles where she works on nervous system regulation only. And other than that, you're friends, because I once joked that in my friend group, you're either neurodivergent or you're queer or you're both. And, you know, it was a bit of a joke, but it turns out to be true. You connect with people, you can feel it, and you connect with people who are like you. So, you know.
We have one more question. The last one, especially for you.
Okay. Hello, I'm Vincent. So I have sort of like a statement saying something like, you can only be as good as your own reference, meaning that whenever either you have ADHD or something else, it doesn't really matter, neurodivergent brain, how did that help you realize that either you needed some help or you wanted to stop the thing that you were doing and take a different direction?
It was a little bit like the other gentleman. Where do I go? What is my community? So I started building programs, and I was listening to people, and these are my strategies, and this is how my brain works, and I set 45 different alarms, and I have problems with transitions, and I started wondering, does not everybody live like this? I thought everybody just hid it better than me. So that's where you start. That's the start-off point, when you realize for yourself that you've been living life on hard mode. But I also meet people exactly like the gentleman here who say, I think I also might have it. And then my first question is, are you happy with your life? Have you built a life for yourself that works for you? If so, great. If not, change it. Because that's the essence of pathology, right? The essence of pathology is that you need to not function, else it's not pathological behavior. And you need to not function either for society, so you need to be a risk for society, because let's face it, people who are extremely schizophrenic don't know they're extremely schizophrenic, but they cause disruption, and they're not violent. Schizophrenic people are not more violent than other people, but they're very disruptive, and therefore it's pathological. So when you were still referring to talking to God, when that was seen as something great, they were not being disruptive, they were being useful until they were, and then you have Joan of Arc and she was burned at the stake.
So my question is related to your personal experience. So in that sense, what was the moment, the trigger for you to say something like, hey, I need to do something?
Oh, I had a burnout. I had a kid, and then everything collapsed. Because I had no more control over my life. because my kid controlled my life, and I had a kid who didn't sleep, ever. So when we're talking about all babies are born with ADHD, I challenge your thoughts, because everybody was like, oh, go walk with the pram and your baby will instantly fall asleep. And then I was there walking for 3 hours, even though I was not even cleared medically. And my baby was awake and then overstimulated and crying for hours. The only thing that did work was the opposite of the recommended. Oh, they'll sleep through it. Leg ze maar in de box. Dan leren ze wennen aan het lawaai en dan slapen ze zo doorheen. Oh, that's what they hear in the womb. They'll sleep through it. Pitch black, not a sound. That was the only way my kid would sleep, in 45-minute increments. So, honestly, I shattered. I fell apart. And therefore, but I still had to be there for my kid. Because I did want to do things differently than my parents, which all parents want to, you know, all of them want to do things differently from their parents. And therefore, I looked for help. And at first that was burnout and therapy, and then came anxiety and therapy, and then came my work with ASML going like, this sounds like ADHD. And now I'm going through life a lot lighter.
Wow, thank you. There are like a big applause for our speakers for sure. Thank you so much. And especially for sharing your personal stories. Luckily, we have drinks afterwards, so we can talk further and share stories as well. But we always end, well, always is a big word, but we have a small tradition to end with Hans, who is always drawing the Innovation Café and gives the summary.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I was amazed by the openings you made to this world, which is all around us. I mean, divergent, neuro, and the first thing that caught me was that deadlines are no good. I always thought that deadlines are the worst thing in life because they are dead. And therefore, I always advise people to direct their attention at lifelines. I mean, a lifeline draws your attention, and the whole thing, what I heard, is about attention. And if you find a way to focus attention, then, well, you're far on the way from nervous energy, transforming it through anxiety into the right dopamines. We all need them, dopamines, they are a great thing in life. And then the next thing that caught my attention was never have a meeting without an agenda. I think that's top. The history part I like very much too. I mean, King Lear is a great example. You see them back in Ram, the Japanese film. And he shows, I mean, Shakespeare shows to us that what the Indians know as a brujo is a au contraire person. He enters the room backwards. He sits on the horse opposite way. And the Indians accept that person in his divergence. And I think we should learn, apart from neurodiverse, to accept that everybody is unique in that sense. In Holland, we used to have a band, a rock band, which was called Normal. Wow. And they stopped in 2016. So since then, we have no reference to normal. I love that. So lifelong attention is given when people accept that everybody's normal is different. I thank you for that.
Thank you, Han.
Hey, maar dat is wel echt oerend hard, hè? Om dat te dat is wel oerend hard om dat te omarmen.
Okay, Annemone, I would love to give you the last word.
Just very quick, because we are running way out of time. Thank you so much for sharing everything you did, but also thank you so much, audience, for sharing your questions and your remarks. And yeah, I hope you all felt a safe space to speak up and come back next time.
Yeah, the 25th of September.
September. Who the speaker will be?
It's a surprise.
We
need a deadline. No, we don't need a deadline. That was the thing. But before I forget it.
So I also would love to speak out and say, we need your help. I can't do it alone. So help us, please, getting this more often. Finding speakers, finding budget, drink more at the bar, joining, sharing, everything is helpful. And I also want to thank my main connector, Betsy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And oh yeah, I need to mention the dinner. So
that
good
was
for
what
you.
I had to do.
Yeah, you do that.
No, that's all
but
right.
Betsy had a question.
I do. I'm so impressed that we have so many people here tonight, and I have a question about how you got here. This is something we always try to ask, but sometimes we forget. There's more people, I mean, twice as many people as the last time. So something changed. I guess I'm going to ask, first question, who got to this event because they're a regular? Hold up your hand. Okay, that's our regular set. Hi, everybody. Okay, second, who got to this event because they saw a poster on the side of the road? Because we put up a whole bunch of new signboards along the side of the road. Like, one of those bus boards or whatever they call it.
Not many people, Betsy.
Nobody?
No,
Nobody.
I don't see hands.
That's surprising. Okay. Is it because of the topic? Yeah? Yeah, okay. So, topic. And who found it through LinkedIn? Who found it through Facebook? Okay, so it's just the topic and word of mouth, right? Is that a meetup? Ah, okay, meetup. Okay, that's our new channel. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. I just want to tell you after this, the concept is that we have 2 speakers questioning, and then afterwards we have a dinner. You can join our dinner if you want to. Zoe in the back. Zoe, can you please wave? Please tell her if you want to stay for dinner, because then we will... Sorry? Is it sold out? No, it's not sold out, so you can join, don't worry. And you can bring your friend. Sorry? Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, and enjoy your drinks, and see you next time. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Okay, thank you.
They're overcrowded now. Ja, lukt het?
Ga ik hem nu naar beneden?
Nee, dat is eentje.